What's going on, everybody? It's EricRayweather back here, helping you take your game to the next level. And if you want to take your game to the next level and win more online head-to-head games, go ahead and hit the subscribe button below. I drop the best Madden tips on YouTube. You want to go ahead and hit the bell notification icon next to the subscribe button. Basically, what that's going to do is notify you every time I drop a new video so that you don't miss out on anything. Now, we're back in the final video for the Jumbo Heavy scheme. I've gone over the passing plays in the last few videos. I'll have those linked below in the description. If you have missed any of those, definitely check those out because they are very important to the scheme. Today I'm just going to briefly touch on the run plays, and for me personally, there's only two run plays that I really use out of this, and it's going to be the halfback dive, which is a formation audible, and then the halfback stretch, which is a play that I'll usually come out in. I kind of went over that in the first video. I either come out in the halfback stretch or the PA counter waggle because all the other plays that I use are formation audibles. So when I do feel like running the ball, if I think I'm going to run it, I come out in the stretch. If I don't like what I see, I'll then usually audible to like tight end corners, or I'll audible to the halfback dive if I feel like that's a better run. Now, there's different ways you can run the stretch. The good thing about this formation, like I've gone over in previous videos, is that you can flip the formation without giving away. So you can flip the run to the left without giving away that you want to go to the left, which is really good. And with the stretch, basically, is you either want to cut it up the B gap or take it outside. That's, the way you're typically going to run the stretch. I'm just going against random defense right now, so it is what it is. But in an actual game, I find it's easier to run the ball in the game than it is in practice mode, because you're accounting for the user player. If they're not, hitting the gaps good, you're going to be able to run the ball a lot easier on them. Now, one thing I do like to do with the stretch sometimes, if I like flip it, I will motion this outside guy over like this and run it like that to give myself an extra blocker. And as you can see, it just opens up the hole a lot more when you do that. Another thing you can do, if you're running it to the right or the left, actually, you can motion over a tight end, and what he will do is go all the way to the other side, and you can hike it when he gets all the way to the outside, or you can hike it a little bit earlier. I'm going to show you that next. I think it usually works better if you hike it earlier. I'll show you when he gets right at the right tackle. You want to hike it right there, and it just sometimes it'll create a bigger hole for you to run. Like I said, we're in practice mode, and they block shed really good in practice mode, so I can't really showcase the runs that good as they would work in the regular game. But the stretch for me is the run that gets the most yards. Typically, it'll usually be running it to the left, and I'll motion this guy like that. This is when I usually get the biggest yards. It'll be something like this, and it usually opens up a big hole just like you saw there. And if the user defender overruns it, you're going to get a lot of one-play touchdowns out of it, and I've gotten a lot of one-play touchdowns out of it this year. So you can run it regular, but I find with the stretch it definitely works better to the left and better with motion. That's just from my experience. I don't think stretches to the right side of the field are that great this year. As you see, it parts like the Red Sea for some reason when you run it to the left and motion a guy over to help block. I'm not sure why that is, but that's just in my experience. I find that it just opens up a lot more for you. As you can see, we're getting almost 10 yards a pop here, and if you make one blocker miss, or if somebody just overcommits too much, you're looking at one-play touchdowns. Now, the other run is obviously the dive. This is the more safe run. You're going to usually get more solid yards out of this, 4 to 5 consistently, sometimes more. This is the run I use the most. I do use the stretch a good bit, but I just like dives better personally. I'm not a big fan of outside runs. I haven't been for the past few years in Madden because I feel like block shed is just so random these last few years. And even if you're running it against the right defense and you're running it to the outside, one block shed can shut down your play. I find that dives just tend to be more consistent. I mean, as you can see, I can run the dive over and over, and I'm rarely probably going to get less than 3 yards on it, which, I mean, it's just a more solid run in my opinion, especially from this formation with everybody on the line. So I like the dive better, and that's what I do to mix it up. When I've been passing a lot, I always mix the run in because I want my opponent to have to think about it. I want them to be worried about the run too, because that makes it so much harder to defend the pass. The stretch, if the outside is just really open, that's when I'll try to hit the stretch. If not, I'll just audible down to the halfback dive and, take my easy 4 to 5 yards and just love it, because it's just a more consistent run, and it's typically the run I use inside the 5. If I want to run the ball by the goal line, I'm going with the dive. Now, there's also a counter out of this formation. Personally, I'm not that big of a fan of most counters this year. There's a couple in the game that I like, and I've actually made videos on those. But outside of those, I'm not really a big fan of counters this year. So I stick with the stretch and the dive. You know, if the middle's open, take the dive all day if it's there. If the outside is open, take the stretch. And then if not, pass the ball. You have plenty of options in this formation. So those are the two runs I use. If you like the counter, definitely mix that in too. But for me, it's the stretch and the dive. So just wanted to break those down. And that's going to pretty much conclude my the way I run jumbo heavy. That's pretty much the basic plays that I use and have had the most success with. So if you enjoyed this video, as always, you know the drill. Just like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.